Knowledge management is a process with 6 basic steps, assisted by different tools and techniques. When these steps are followed sequentially, the data transfers into knowledge. Step 1. Collecting. This is the most important step of the knowledge management process. If you collect the incorrect or irrelevant data, the resulting knowledge might not be the most accurate. Therefore, the decision made based on such knowledge could be inaccurate as well. Step 2. Organizing. The data collected need to be organized. As an example, all sales-related data can be filed together, and all staff-related data could be stored in same database table. This type of organizing helps to maintain data accurately within a database. This way, data is logically arranged and related to one another for easy retrieval. Step 3. Summarizing. The information is summarized in order to take the essence of it. The length information is presented in tabular or graphical format and stored appropriately. Step 4. Analyzing. At this stage, the information is analyzed in order to find the relationships, redundancies, and patterns. Step 5. Synthesizing. At this point, information becomes knowledge. The results of analysis are combined together to derive various concepts and artifacts. Step 6. Decision making. At this stage, the knowledge is used to decision making. As an example, when estimating a specific type of a project or a task, the knowledge related to previous estimates can be used. This accelerates the estimation process and adds high accuracy.
Now that we know some background as to what knowledge management means on the whole, let's break it up into its two components, explicit and tacit. Just as a side note, for the remainder of this section of the presentation, explicit knowledge management will simply be referred to as explicit knowledge. One way explicit knowledge can be defined is described as knowledge that can be represented physically in such ways as words, images, and objects. Some properties of explicit knowledge are the following: the ability to teach and to train, the ability to be used widely to access and reapply throughout a company or organization, such as an intranet or network drives, and the transfer of knowledge via services, products, and documented processes. An example of explicit knowledge is this book. It's a physical object full of words, images, and is considered a way of managing and storing the knowledge it contains within. Another more technologically advanced example is an iPad. Again, it's a physical object that has access to all types of information, such as a library of books, emails, and even the entire World Wide Web. Many years ago, when postal services became widely used, response times between the sender and recipient and back again were measured on a scale of weeks to months. This is also an example of explicit knowledge, a transfer of knowledge. Nowadays, with the advent of text messaging and emailing, response times have drastically been reduced to a scale of minutes and hours, even as little as a few seconds. Now recall the first property of explicit knowledge, the ability to teach and train. One of the reasons why books, and now iPads, are considered two of the great methods of knowledge management is because of their intuitive nature. The late CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs, once said this about a 6-year-old Colombian boy being shown an iPad. With no instruction and never having seen a computer before, the boy started using it intuitively. He began swiping the screen, launching apps, and playing a pinball game. This story perfectly captures the idea of explicit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge enables individuals to deal with new situations and to act quickly without having to deliberate. However, it is hard to express, reproduce, share with others, duplicate, replace, or interpret, as it is grounded in the experience and induction of an individual, which has been refined over many years. Applications of tacit knowledge usually involves situations where people can do something, but they cannot tell, explain, or put into words how they do it. Examples of tacit knowledge being applied includes an expert lawyer's rapid but effective perusal of case documents, or a quick diagnosis by an experienced doctor based on a range of cues, whereas a beginner doctor may take significant time to analyze information about a patient or even seek advice. Although tacit knowledge is hard to document, categorize, and share, organizations highly depend on it in order to make good quality choices and judgments. Key concerns of knowledge management in any organization is how to identify who holds tacit knowledge and how to enable others to access tacit knowledge when it is needed.
Personal knowledge management is a collection of processes that a person uses to gather, classify, store, search, retrieve, and share knowledge in his or her daily activities, and the way in which these processes support work activities. It is a response to the idea that knowledge workers increasingly need to be responsible for their own growth and learning. The framework of personal knowledge management can be defined as seek, sense, and share. To seek is to engage in extend personal learning networks in order to discover and filter information and new perspectives that can inform your learning goals. To sense is to internalize and add value to this information by developing new insights through discussion and experimentation. To share is to communicate your new thoughts, resource, result, or lingering question back to your peers and networks. Enterprise knowledge management is a fairly broad term in IT that refers to any solution or system that deal with organizing data into structures that build knowledge within a business. Another way to say this is that knowledge management solution create business knowledge out of existing assets. Nonprofit and business often create knowledge management department or structure that help to oversee business process. And to other intangibles such as data assets, these fit into a big picture of enterprise resource planning and business intelligence, where many different kind of software assist human decision makers in making the most informed decision based on a large file of existing data.
Have you ever heard the phrase, "Don't reinvent the wheel"? This is the underlying philosophy of knowledge management in engineering. Engineering firms can implement knowledge management strategies to prevent employees having to duplicate creation processes that have been established and tested within the company. This reduces the design times, saving a lot of effort. In a competitive field where innovation equates to success, knowledge management can give companies the means to excel in the market. Through engineering-specific research, training, and conferences, an individual can gain unique knowledge that may enable them to see a new approach to an engineering problem or a new way of applying existing resources. A company that promotes this kind of constant knowledge creation is a learning organisation. They encourage employee contribution, critical thinking, and sharing of ideas to make positive changes to the organisation itself. Now consider the journey of a piece of knowledge, created by a graduate engineer, say a bridge design. The plans and calculations are explicit knowledge that can be captured in a file-sharing software or intranet for access by anyone in the company. In order to ensure the design meets required strength and serviceability, the grad would have referred to the Australian standards, where tried and tested best practices are stored in order to speed the design process by outlining critical steps. But a company's intellectual assets are more than just the information it stores. The tacit knowledge lies in the heads of the experienced senior engineers and is harder to harness, requiring a people-centered knowledge management system. So how can a senior engineer's experience be used to guide our graduate in his bridge design? Mentoring programs are a knowledge management strategy that facilitate the sharing of an engineer's experience and expertise within a company to guide the newer engineers in best practices. As engineering firms are multidisciplinary, communities of practice allow professionals in related areas of technical skill to share ideas and seek assistance when faced with new challenges, sharing their tacit knowledge. But what happens when employees aren't willing to share their ideas? Knowledge hoarding can lead to important information being underutilised and undermines the entire knowledge management system. A simple knowledge management system is needed so engineers can see the benefits of the practices, not just another management practice requiring extra effort. Ultimately, the effectiveness of any knowledge management strategy is dependent on the cultural attitude of the organisation. Trust, a mutual goal for success, and a willingness to learn and contribute are essential, because no one wants to have to reinvent the wheel.